Hey everyone, welcome to figuring out the differences between the old Jira and the new Jira. It's been a confusing last couple of months and change is hard. And what I want to do today is compare and contrast the two different Jiras so that you have a good understanding of what's changed, what's where, and overall just maybe help lower the frustration and help lower the confusion because Atlassian has moved a lot of stuff. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the UI and just highlight all the key differences. There's a lot of differences. And if I forget one or you feel like I need to cover one, that chat on the left hand side or right hand side of your screen there, definitely take advantage of it as we can make this as interactive as much as you want as well. So let's jump into it. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to just start off with some basics and help you understand what's going on here. And so in case you've been living under a rock, Atlassian updated the UI. They promised a UI update in April of 2024, and we just now started receiving it maybe 8 weeks ago. And so Atlassian takes a while to push these updates, but they're here, and there's a lot of differences. And if this is the first time you're seeing Jira, this is what the new UI looks like. It's very different. This is the old UI, and so I'm going to be toggling between the two quite frequently, in fact, and I'm going to show you some differences. Okay. Now, the easiest way to describe what's different, what's the big difference between the new UI and the old UI, is to simply shift your head sideways. And so, if you were to take this menu up at the top, okay, your work, projects, filters, dashboards, teams, plans, and apps. If you were to take this, well, Atlassian made it go down the line, down the side. So everything is now going down the left-hand side of the navigation. And this is very much like 2020 Jira vibes, where we used to be up and down the side there. Now, everything inside the project. So once you go into a project, if you were to take the menu that was currently on the left, okay, the summary, the timeline, the backlog, in the new Jira, if you open up a project, you'll notice that all of that is now going horizontal across the top. And so those are the two big, like in your face changes where, again, Atlassian kind of just did a tilt, a 90-degree tilt, and inversed the two, right? So it took whatever's at the top is now on the side, and whatever's on the side is now at the top. And so those are the two big ones. Now, we're going to go deeper though, right? Because that's just at a glance, the biggest, if I had to summarize it in 10 seconds or less, what's changed? Well, the UI just inversed, okay? But there's a lot of nuances. There's a lot of details that are very, very different. And that's what we're going to be covering here over the next, I don't know, I think it's going to take me maybe an hour. You know me, my videos are never scripted. So who knows how long this is going to take. But we're going to try to cover as many details as possible. And again, if you're in the chat here, feel free to say hello. Let me know that you're tuning in. And let me know if I miss anything or let me know what's your biggest frustration with the new Jira UI. I'll make sure to get that covered. All right, so we're going to start off with the For You page. The For You page is very, very important, not only because it's been updated, but because Atlassian also has plans to evolve the For You page. The For You page, in my understanding, based on Team 25, is going to convert itself to be the home page and the home, or what they're calling the home app. And the home app is really designed to be that one place where everything, not just your Jira stuff, but all your Atlassian things converge into one place. And so expect the For You page to evolve over time. But as you can see here, already the For You page is a lot more informational than it is in the old Jira. And again, this is the new Jira, verticals on the left. This is the old Jira, or the menus on the horizontal on the top. Because when you click on your work in the old Jira, it's a little drop down. And it's a little drop down where you can see things that are assigned to you, your recent stuff. So what items have you clicked into? And then the boards that you have access to. Now, of course, you can always click on the go to your work page and you would see then the your work, right? So you'll see the projects, things that you worked on, things you viewed, things that are assigned to you, and starred. So as you can see, your work, they made it easier. It's just a single click. So if I'm somewhere else, if I'm in a project over here and I click on For You, I'm immediately taken to the For You page where I can see the things that I worked on, the things that I viewed, the things that are assigned to me, anything that started, and my board. So this is different. They added the boards here as well. But that's the biggest first change, is that the For You or the Your Work page has changed quite a bit in the experience. It's a lot easier to get to it, and you don't have to fiddle around with this different menu that has different items. So this is a welcome change, in my opinion. I really, really like that For You page. I like that it's there. But you also get another added bonus. Atlassian has been merging Jira Service Management with Ops Genie. And so all of your on-call schedules, if you're a JSM user, is now over here on the right-hand side as well. In the old Jira, they started adding it here as well. But if you don't have it enabled, it won't show up. But they did start slowly pulling that work in here, or that information in here. So it's going to be there as well. So that's there. Again, if you don't see it, it's probably because you don't have Ops Genie. And so that is the first big change. Next big change is how we search for things in Jira. So the search bar over here on the right-hand side, you'll notice that when you click into it, it makes it bigger, and then you can look for stuff. Well, in the new Jira, search is front and center. It's like the main thing. And I really think Atlassian wants us to leverage the power of Rovo so that we can just search for everything. And so it's front and center. The UI doesn't have to expand. It's all right there. And this is, I wouldn't say a big change, but it's a difference, right? Because Atlassian in the old UI, their center, their main focus was the create button. And so they wanted you creating things in Jira. But in the new UI, you can see that the create button has taken a little bit of a side saddle here, and it's on the side, and search is front and center. And it's very, very clean. The navigation of Jira is super, super clean, where it's literally search and create. Versus the old one, you have the entire menu options, create, and then eventually you get to search, which is something that we tend to do a lot inside of Jira. So that would be another big change, right? Is again, just the location prioritization of the search. Now, we're going to go over to the left-hand side, and I'm going to show you some other changes that are changing. The big one here is when you go to something like projects, you'll notice that now when I expand or click on the projects, it expands a list. In the old Jira, when you click on projects, it hits you with a drop-down. I like this. I like this a lot more because when you're viewing your projects, you can still see your work. You can still see the filters, dashboards, teams, the create button. Everything's still there. It didn't move. But on the new one, and I'm going to zoom in here just because I'm realizing this, I might be a little zoomed out. On the new one, you'll notice that the entire menu gets pushed down. So these goals, watch their location. They get pushed all the way to the very, very bottom. And if you expand like your apps, your goals just disappeared on you. And this is a new change that you have to get accustomed to, because when you click on apps, you would get this drop down, which I like. I think this is a much better design. But over here now, you have to remember that when you start expanding these things, they're permanently long-term permanent, short-term long-term. They're not permanent, but they're stuck, right? They're sticky, and that means that if you click around, they don't collapse, right? Like they're still there, they're still expanded, and they don't go away. Versus in the old UI, the moment you click away, the drop down goes away, and that's not the case with this new one. If you're expanding all of these things, then they all stay expanded, and that means that you will be scrolling for a very long time to find all of your things, because as you can see here, we have everything just expanded out, and it makes for I would say a less than ideal experience in this case. I don't like this. I like the drop down better. I like that when you go to your apps, you have a drop down with your apps. I'm assuming because we're now vertical on the UI, they wouldn't do a pop up to the right. So that's changed quite a bit. Now, again, in the chat, let me know if you find this one interesting or not. I don't like it. I like this method more. I like the drop down more. I think this is cleaner. I think maybe not cleaner, but it's more intuitive. I like this. It's a lot more intuitive. Now, to create a project, that has changed quite a bit as well. In the old UI, if you wanted to create a project, you have to go to projects and then create a project. In the new UI, you just simply click on the plus button. That's always present. So that button never goes away. And so that's a welcome change here, because creating a project, instead of having to do two different clicks, you always just see the plus button here. Okay. So that's a welcome change. I like this one. I think this one's a good move from Atlassian. One that I don't know. It depends on how many times you're creating projects, but I really, really like this one as well. Okay. Now, another major change that is really going to impact you, and I think this one's going to be a pretty significant one, is when you're looking at the old Jira UI, this UI is static. And what I mean by that is what you see is what you get. Your work is always there, projects is always to the right of your work, dashboards is always flanked by both the filters and the teams. And what you see is what you get. That's it. Well, in the new UI, all of this is customizable. And so I'm going to collapse everything so you can kind of see everything. But when you click on these three dots, you can change the view. You can hide it from the sidebar. So you can make your projects go away completely. Or you can click on plus more and you can bring things back, right? Sorry, you can click on customize tool sidebar and you can bring things back. And you can also move them around. So if projects is very important, you can move it to the top. If apps is not as important, you can move it all the way to the bottom. If you're using your dashboards a lot, you can move your dashboards up. And so this is fully customizable to each individual. And this, my friends, is a very, very big change and one that you need to be very aware of because for you personally, maybe you don't care. But if you're a Jira admin, this is probably going to be your worst nightmare because now everybody's Jira has a potential to be different because it's customizable to the individual. Now, I have not seen any documentation on can we stop this from happening. I think it would be great if we could stop it from happening. I think it would be a very, very welcome capability here. But just know that you can definitely move things around and you can elect to show certain menu options or hide menu options. That is a very, very big difference from here where you couldn't touch this. This is Atlassian's domain up here and you had no configurations whatsoever. Now, as we continue down the list here, dashboards is all the same. You can click a new dashboard. This UI is all the same, so no changes there. Our recent is now why couldn't they do this with the rest of it, right? So our recent is a pop out that is just going to be your little shortcut to the last few things that you've touched. Now this is different because inside of Jira, you'll notice we don't have a recent. And so I mean there's technically a recent in here, but you have to go finding it, right? Like it's not something that's very obvious to you. So Atlassian took this recent and abstracted it out and made its own section with a pop-up, which I think is what they should have done with the rest of the navigation, but who am I to tell Atlassian how to do their job? But this recent, again, normally would be in the For You page under recent, and you'll notice that that section is all gone. There is no recent in here, and rather it gets its own dedicated section out here. And so, interesting move. I don't know how much I would use it because over here it was nested and hidden, and so it's not something I've grown accustomed to using. But Atlassian must have had some data to either justify or they would understand or know how many people actually went and clicked on that recent enough that they were like, hey, this should be its own thing. And in the old UI, it's nested and hidden. So it's not something I depended on or used at all. So I'm most likely just going to turn off recent because I don't really see any value for it. But if you're brand new to Jira, this might be kind of cool because Jira can be a very overwhelming tool. And with this recent, you can at least now see things that you worked on recently, right? And so it's a lot easier to find things rather than finding the board and whatnot. So welcome change, I think, for new users. For me, again, I've been using Jira for so long that I didn't even know that this recent was in there and it's hidden. And so I definitely won't be using it at all. Now your star, this was interesting too, because they basically took for each of these sections, you can put a little star on things. And so you can always put a star on your projects, you can put a star on your filters, a star on your dashboards. And so now rather than going into each of these items individually, which they still have, right? You still have filters, you still have your dashboards, you still have your projects. But rather than putting a star at those levels, you now have a starred item over here that's going to be a star for your dashboards, projects, or filters. So it doesn't matter what you're starring, it's all in one place. Now, interesting move here as well. Atlassian, I think this is I like this. I think this is beneficial because instead of having to hunt for those items that you quote unquote bookmarked, they're all in one location. Redundancy though, right? Because on the For You page, you have your start over here. And so a little bit different, very different than the old way, right? Where you had to go to each section and look for your work. Although under your work, you could always go to your work page. Oh wait, look, yeah, and look for your start here. So again, a lot more centered, a lot more easier, and I think for new users, it's going to be beneficial. If you're new to Jira, it lets you bookmark things and easily in one location be able to find everything. For existing users like myself, eh, I click around Jira. I prefer to move around the whole product. So that's interesting. Now, what I will tell you, Atlassian, if you're listening, these two are amazing. We have pop-outs that show us the list of stuff. Why don't I have that for my projects? I don't like that this thing gets pushed down. Like this is very I don't like this. You guys should fix this. You obviously have the code to do it because this is the correct way to do it. This should just be a pop-up. This right here, no bueno. No bueno at all. Okay. As we worked on our list, I think everything else is going to be pretty standard on this one here. So your plans, if you're on the premium version of Jira, you're going to get your plans. If you're in apps, you're going to have your list of apps, which again, I think should pop out. My opinion would be that they pop out. Teams, you can go and create teams over here. Operations, if you're an Ops Genie, this is where all your alerts are going to be. And then if you have assets, if you're in Jira Service Management Premium, you're going to have assets, which that's a different price. And then your goals. If you have goals, everything's moving to this home app. As I mentioned, Atlassian has been working on this new and improved home application. So I would expect this to be rebranded a little bit in the future, but this is not different. This has always been there. It's just in the project. So before the goals, you have to go into a project and then hit the goal. And so what is different is that your goals, and I think this is the right way to do goals. I think goals should be project agnostic, so you can kind of center your goals around your organization. So this to me is the right place to put your goals outside of the project. And so that is a welcome change, in my opinion, where the goals, rather than them being nested in the project, they are now at the main dashboard out here. So very, very welcome change. And again, redirecting to home.atlassian.net, which or home.atlassian.com, which is going to be updated again when the home app gets released later. Well, I would assume before May of 2026. Okay. So any questions on the navigation, folks, let me know. But those are the pretty big ones that we've been wanted to highlight. And now we're going to start going into a project. Now, this, my friends, is where things get interesting. So as you know, we have the project over here. By the way, kudos to their design team for the icons. I love the project with the little rocket. I love their new UI with respect to the icons. I think from an iconography perspective, they nailed it. These icons are very sleek, very modern. I like it better than nothing over here. Like we just have words. And so I really, really like this little icon. So again, kudos to the Atlassian team for that. I can't say that all their UI sucks. That wouldn't be true. So kudos to them for that one. And let's keep going here with jumping into a specific project. So to go into a project, again, it's a little bit more annoying because now you have to click on projects to view the list of projects. This should be a pop-up. But here's the very most unintuitive thing. So if you're multitasking, you're going to want to pay attention here for 5 seconds. When you want to access a project in the old UI, let's start with the old one. You go to projects and then you can click on view all projects, or you can just simply click into the project and you're in the project. You're there immediately. Awesome. This is beautiful. In the new UI, things couldn't be so simple. Now, when you click on projects, it expands the list of your projects. You can still click on view all projects, that's still going to work. But now, intuitively, when you want to click into a project, nothing happens. You now expand the project to expose the board. And so now you have to click on the board. This, my friends, is unintuitive UX. This should not be how it works. So just keep in mind that what used to be a single click where we would click into a project to get into it, you now have to go click onto the projects to expose your projects. You have to then pick your project to expose the board, and then you got to pick the board. And things get a little bit more complex if a particular project has multiple boards. And so like this one, you now need to know which board you're going to go into instead of just going to the last one you visited. So a little bit different, but that is now how we jump into projects, which again is definitely a unwelcome change, in my opinion, on how we used to access a project in the old view. Now, what I do like is that if you click on view all projects here and you click like on this project, you will then go into the project the way I would expect to go in, but very unintuitive from this side over here. Okay. So Atlassian, if you're watching, let's get that one fixed because that would be cool if I didn't have to click so many times to get to my project. Okay, so we're in a project. Now, all the things that used to be on the left-hand side, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, have now shifted to the top. And so what we're going to do is we're going to work our way across and kind of show you where things are at. So first off is the summary. This is not new. We have the summary view, and all of this is exactly the same as it is inside of the old Jira. Now you may notice that mine says feature progress. This is something that I did at Team 25. I messed around with my entire Jira and changed the whole thing around, and I should probably put it all back. But as you can see, it's not perfect. So Atlassian is still kind of making changes here because this used to be the epic. For you, it should say epic progress. And you can kind of see that the epics here and view all epics is here. And so Atlassian, not perfect, but they're making some changes. So this summary view, though, nothing has changed. Now, what you'll notice, though, is immediately after summary in the old UI, we go to our timeline. And what you'll notice here is that we don't have a timeline. And so the question is, well, what happened to our timeline? Well, Atlassian, very much like the UI over here on the left-hand side, which again is very persistent, very, very annoyingly persistent, you can reorganize all of these items. So there's a plus button over here, and you can add things to your navigation. And depending on your project type, apparently you do or don't get a timeline. And so let me click into another one. Here we go. Your timeline is here, but you can move them around. So you can move things to the right. As you can see there, it'll move it to the right, or you can move it to the left. And so the order of operations, again, in the old UI, this is very static. What you see is what you get. But in the new one, you can move everything around. And so as a end user who loves customizations, have at it. As a Jira admin who's dealing with what happened to my timeline, why is it missing? Because, oh, by the way, I can just remove it, right? And everybody's gonna go, what happened to my timeline? They're gonna forget that they removed it because humans. And so I just see a lot of new tickets and a new headache for your Jira admins. And by the way, when you add the new timeline, when you add it back in, notice that it adds it to the right. And so if you want to get it back to the location, you're gonna have to move it to the left and then hope that the refresh works here because it doesn't always move on me. See, this is a little buggy here. It just doesn't move. It moves to the right well, but it won't move to the left. And so you're going to be dealing with this. I wish you can just drag and drop. That would have been way easier. Well, wait, we can. Here we go. Okay, so that's easier. So that's a new feature. I think I tried this like 2-3 weeks ago and I couldn't do that. But just know that you can now move things around, right? Very easily, you can move things around. And so expect your UIs to be different. Expect that when you're collaborating with a coworker, their Jira might look different now because their navigations are customizable. And again, a gift and a curse. I think more of a curse than a gift. I don't like this. I don't like that change, mainly because I can already just predict the number of tickets I'm going to be dealing with people going, where's my backlog? Because you can hide the backlog. Okay, you cannot hide that backlog. Great. Where's my active sprint? Great. Those we can stay. Where's my calendar? Because you can hide your calendar, right? And so again, a little mildly annoying, but I think pretty cool nonetheless, but still mildly annoying. Okay. Other thing that you get is this more. This section is weird. You get a more button over here where it just shows you things like your components, your development, your code, your releases, uh, your archive. So all of this more stuff is in the left hand side, and you just scroll down over here. And so I prefer the scroll over here than I prefer the hidden because the more and the plus button have very similar functionality, where the more shows you the list of everything that didn't fit in this horizontal bar, and the plus button allows you to add and remove things from the bar. And so you can add things like your on call, and so you can add all these items to your horizontal menu over here, and then they eventually make it to the, like, this is everything. And so again, not sure how I feel about this one, but I'm not a big fan. I will tell you that I prefer, again, the vertical scroll, or I prefer to be able to scroll left and right on this one. I don't know how I like this plus more, but anyways, neither here nor there. Just know that from the old UI, everything used to be visible, and you just scroll up and down. In the new UI, you have to click on this plus button or on the more button to find all the things that you're looking for. So in the chat, we'll take a little pause here. What do y'all think so far? Are you liking the new UI? Do you not like some of these things? I'm not a big fan of everything, as you can see, but it's still a pretty cool experience nonetheless. I think it's a welcome experience because, you know, and Jira being Jira, it's always nice for new fresh eyes or new fresh perspective. But anyways, that's some changes there. Now we're gonna go a little bit deeper into this. And how do we get to our project settings? Our project settings are hidden. Um, here's my 2 cents, folks. Okay, Atlassian did me wrong here. When I create a project and I create a work management type of project, all right, demo business project, right? And so when I create a company managed um, work management project in the old UI, I want you to keep an eye on something. Okay, I'm gonna hit skip on all this stuff. All right, here's a project that looks and feels right. Like I got to get rid of all this advertisement stuff. Right, this looks and feels like the new Jira, but watch something that they did very special here. They put project settings right here. And folks, as a Jira admin, as a project admin, I access my project settings a lot. Okay, I get to this screen a lot. And in a business project, this is where they're at. In a software project, project settings has always been on the bottom left corner. Well, in the new UI, which borrows so much from this business template, right? So if you were to look at this business template and this new UI, like it is very, very similar, very, very similar, right? To the point where a lot of this is like we get a lot of vibes from the new UI here, even within the old UI, right? So, folks, why wouldn't one of these buttons be the project settings? Like, why would you put it so easily here, but hide it over here? Like, why would you do that to us at Atlassian? So, if you want to get to your project settings in a Jira project, you now have to come to these 3 dots over here, which Atlassian's calling the action button. And when you click on that, you will then be able to do your project settings from here. This is a very different change compared to the old UI, right? Because in the old UI, muscle memory, you know exactly where those project settings are. Atlassian decided to move these around. Not happy with it. Not happy at all. But this is where you now see your project settings. Now, within your project settings, your UI looks familiar. These items are gonna look and feel like they do in the old one. So project settings, I'm just gonna go back to a software project. So, oh boy, I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, so the UI feels the same, right? You still have your details, your summary, your permissions, stuff like that. That's all covered in here. I'm in a team managed project over here. That's why my UI looks slightly different. But this does look and feel very familiar. You may be noticing work items, folks. This is a new change as well. And so we now have Atlassian is slowly but surely updating, going away from issues and into work items and work. And so when you click on this setting, you will now see that you have work types, your work type hierarchy, your work type schemes. And so Atlassian is slowly but surely making those changes. We now have our work type schemes. And so just when you learn how to do that tongue twister, Atlassian changes that on us. But anyways, if you want to get to your project settings, you need to go to the project and then click on the ellipses for the project, and you will be able to get to the project settings. Now, what you do not want to do is you do not want to miss, because it's very easy for you to hit these ellipses that expose the project settings and these ellipses which expose the board settings. Because in the old UI, if you wanted to configure your board, as long as you're on the board, you can simply click on these 3 dots and configure your board. But in the new UI, no. That would be too easy, right? In your board, clicking on these 3 dots over here, that's great. It's there. But let's also put it over here. Now, things get interesting as you move around different project types. So if you move over to, I forget which one it is. Maybe it's a team managed one. No, Kanban. One of these has it differently. There we go, the Kanban boards. So if you have a Kanban board and you intuitively click on the 3 dots that we just witnessed work for the Scrum project, no, Atlassian says no. We're not going to give you that option. So you still have to come over here and click on them over here to get to your board settings. And by the way, notice that there's a difference now between configure board and board settings. Why use both languages? I don't know. I would have stayed consistent, right? Because here on a Scrum board, oops, what happened to my? Oh, great. Now I can't even configure it over here. See, inconsistent experience at Atlassian. What is going on here? This is something different. Why can I not? Why? What's going on here? Okay, so in my team managed projects, I can see configure board, but over here on the left, oh, I know why. Because you can't have multiple boards on a team managed project, so they had to make a call and put your configure board over here. But in a company managed project, because you're allowed to have multiple boards, when you click over here, it doesn't work, but you have to go to the board itself to do the board settings. So again, crappy call Atlassian, crappy call. I would have just left it where it was. I would have left the board settings be on the right hand side. This is a very inconsistent experience. And unlike the old UI where every board always had the configure board on the right hand side, this is not a welcome change at all. Okay. So that's that. And well, at least now you have the ability to delete your board. That's the new welcome change. Deleting your board has not been easy to do in the old UI. So I don't know that I want people to be able to know how easy it is to delete a board. Whew, that's definitely not good. Okay, not good at all. All right, one other thing I wanted to show you here, folks, is when you do go to these ellipses for the project, is that one welcome change, because not everything can be negative, right? We got to give Atlassian some credit for some of these changes. But adding people is one of the most common things that I'm doing to a project. And so this is a very welcome change where I can now just click on this and intuitively add people to my project. So before, you would have to go to the project settings, you would then have to go to access, and then you would have to add people. In the new UI, you just simply click on the actions and add people. So that's faster, that's better, that's more intuitive. I like that. I think this is a really good one, Atlassian. So kudos for that. But then that also begs the question. I'm always updating my workflow, so why don't you give me the ability to edit my workflows? Okay. So opening up a can of worms here. This is also new, so you can change your background. So this is something that at least adds a little bit of color to Jira. A little bit more gimmicky, in my opinion. I kind of wish that you could do the picture. So in the old UI in a business project, you could go to project settings somewhere. I don't know where it's at. Somewhere over here, there's like a pretty cool place to change the background. Maybe it's in the details. Nope. All right, I'm not gonna play around with this, but I could have sworn that in this old UI. Oh, maybe it's up here. There we go. Project background. Yeah. See, you can pick a nice background. So it's not just those colors, but you can pick something like this. That would be cool if it would have carried over here. So I don't see that happening. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for a business project and see if we can't replicate the same experience here. Yeah. So for some whatever reason, when you are in a business type of project, you have a lot more customization with respect to your backgrounds. I don't know why Atlassian would do that for one, but not the other template. I think missed opportunities in this particular case, but that's not a new feature. As you can see, it carries over from the old UI where you can't change the background. It's just the placement of things have changed. So before it used to be up here, but now it's over here. Oh, but that, my friends, does bring us up to a new change that I just discovered right now, where to get to this action menu, you can click on the three dots over here to see this stuff. But now over here, this action menu will give us the same information. So I wonder if I go back to a Scrum project, this one over here, let's see, this one here, what happens when I click on these three dots? So because we're in the board, you'll notice that it doesn't have the same behavior. So these are the board settings here, but there's nothing to go into the project itself. So I don't particularly like this. I don't think this is, again, the inconsistencies in the UI. I don't know why Atlassian made these decisions or how they made those decisions, but this is, I would have kept the experience a lot more consistent, and this is not the way to do it. Because some certain project templates are going to have it, and folks, again, I know that I'm just like, I sound like I'm complaining, but let's get serious here for a second. I I deal with tickets all day long, right? People are just like, there's something wrong with Jira. And one of my favorite things that Jira never lies. And so the fact that there's experiences that are consistent, there's inconsistent experiences within the UI is a huge problem because your end users are going to see a coworker click on something in Jira, and they're going to see with their eyes, they're going to see that menu option, and then they're going to go try it in their Jira, and then they're not going to see that menu option, and they're going to say, "Hey, what happened to this?" And unless you watch this video, or unless you've had enough repetitions to understand the behavior, you're going to go down a rabbit hole of like trying to figure out what the heck did they do, especially since everything's so configurable in the new UI. It's just going to create so much work for Jira admins. I am not looking forward to that. I think Atlassian, you should. I understand you're creating an ideal experience for your end user, but you still have Jira admins, and your Jira admins. I can tell you that this is going to cause a lot of friction. So I would definitely address this because having these inconsistent experiences is not good at all. Okay. So again, and I'm talking specifically about this right here, right? Where if you click on these three dots in a business company managed project, you get to set this. But if you're in a Scrum project, also notice the behavior, right? Because business projects only have one board, we immediately jump into that board. But in a company managed project, you have to go into the board, which then doesn't let you do the project settings. So again, small little change, but annoying nonetheless. Let's see if there's any other major changes. So we've already talked about work items over here. So this has changed to work items. The rest of it should be pretty similar. I do appreciate the new icons. Again, I mentioned this already. Icons have changed, and a very welcome change from the old Jira to the new is when I go into edit here, and I'm going to just edit the avatars for these icons, you're going to see that these are the new icons. And so if I go to the old project and to the old UI and I go to my work items here, and I do the same thing where I want to manage the icons over here, you're going to notice that the avatars, these are the old icons. And so I really, really like these new avatars. These are really, really cool. Atlassian, kudos, chef's kiss for these icons. I love the bug one. I think this is super awesome. They're really, really clever, really, really clean, modern. I love these new icons. So definitely a big plus for the chair changes. Now, not so big. You'll notice that when I'm here, right? When I'm here, I can always just jump back into my projects and go back to my project in the old UI. I was, just for those in the back of the room that weren't paying attention, I was in the Jira settings. And when I'm in the Jira settings and I want to go back to my project, I just simply click on project, jump in, 2 clicks. Click on projects, jump into my project. I'm back in it, right? Over here, when I'm in the Jira settings, I lost my projects because that whole left side of the UI, right? All of this should basically be horizontal now. But now I have to go back and now I'm in my project. But what if I didn't want to be in this project, right? I don't have that control anymore. And so not a welcome change because notice, right? If I'm in this Kanban one, and again, I have to expand going to the board. If I go over here and I go to my work items and I'm doing some stuff, but now if I want to go to a different project, well, I have to click on this Jira admin settings, and then I'm defaulted to this project, which is not the project I was in. So interesting experience, not one that I would like. And so at last, and again, missed opportunities here. I think when you're in this view over here, maybe move these across the top or do something different because I need to be able to pick the project I want to go to. This is just part of my workflow. And again, maybe pull your Jira admins because I don't know. If you're a Jira admin in the chat, what do you think? Are you cool with this? Like, are you okay with going back and just defaulting to the very first project on the list here? And also, what happened to my? So if I'm on this project, oh boy, what is this experience, man? What are you doing to me, Atlassian? Can I move things up and down? I cannot. Because earlier it was earlier it was at the top, right? Like, but now it's at the bottom. So I don't know. Atlassian, inconsistent experiences here. And then look at this one. This is a software project that's company managed, and it does give me the project settings. But on this one, it doesn't. It drops me into the board. But this one is also a company managed software project. So why Atlassian do we have two very inconsistent experiences for the same type of project? Because here I only have one board, right? Like there's only one board here. Actually, there is no board here. Why is there no board on this project? What happened to the board? Why does this one not have a board? A Scrum workflow demo. How do I add a board? Okay, so this is a case where okay. So this one doesn't have a board to begin with. Now, that's a different problem for a different day, creating projects with no boards. But it's interesting how Atlassian's handling this, where if you don't have a board, it drops you into the project. But if you do have a board, which 99% of projects do, then you get the unintuitive UI. Interesting decisions, Atlassian. Interesting decisions. Okay. What else is different? I will tell you that all work is now updated. Now this is in the old UI, so this is not a difference in from the old to the new. But I will tell you that this is mildly annoying. So when you go to your all work, instead of seeing, let's go to list view here, right? Instead of seeing all your issues as you would have been used to seeing it, it is now all in a list view or nested view. And so you now have to expand things. So your project, even though you have, right, when you ask it all work, right, when you are looking for all work, you're seeing that this is all the work in this project, but your all work only tells you 3. And that, my friends, is very misleading. This right here is the same thing, right? When I see all work, I'm expecting to see all the work. A month ago, this was not the case. A month ago, when I clicked on all work meant all work. Okay. It meant all 23 items. But now, for some reason, when I'm in the list view, it doesn't show me all 23 items. I mean, they're all there, but they're just nested. And so this is, again, very misleading, very sneaky, not a fan. And this thing doesn't update, right? So this should have, and I would be more okay if this thing was updating as I was expanding, because I'm obviously exposing more work. But I don't know. I don't have a good feeling for how much work I have. I have to go to detail view, and then I'll see that I have 23 items. But what if I don't want to work in the detail view, right? What if I want to work over here? And so this new page count here, I'm asking you should fix that as well, because not a good look there. Okay. Reports are going to be slightly updated just to the new UI. Let's go to the Scrum one here so we can see the reports from a Scrum project. So again, more color, better colors, I think, right? So if you go to the reports on the old one, oh, you also get the new colors. So these have been updated in the old and the new UI, but these used to be very bland in color. So that's a very welcome change. So the reports themselves, let's see if they look any different. Nope, they look pretty much the same, just little cleaner tables here to make it reading a little bit easier. Welcome change there as well. The backlog, this looks pretty much the same. Again, just a little bit more color, which I like. Our timeline looks very much the same. Nothing special here. Our active sprint is going to look the same. We have our sprint details though. This is a new button. Let's see if we have anything in the insights. No, insights are all the same as well. Nothing new there. We do have the ability to turn things on and off, which again, I'm not a fan of. And then our not board settings here. Complete sprint button is pretty clear and obvious. Being able to add new columns because this is a team managed project, or is it? No, this is a company managed project. So why test column? I should not be able to do this. Why are you doing this to me, Atlassian? This is not something I want to do from here. Okay. I'm going to delete this, but I'm not happy with that. All right, we have our calendar, which looks pretty much the same. We have our list view, which is pretty much the same as the old one. We have forms, which, by the way, now work as a public form. So there's new forms here. So this is good. We have the goals that we talked about that are nested outside now, which is good. We have our work here. Now we have a bunch of extra buttons over here for automation rules for the project. This is good that we can now see the automation rules at the project level, because in the old UI, to get to your automation, you have to go to your project settings, and then you have to go down to automation. And so this is a very welcome change. that I can just click on here and create an automation. So it shows that Atlassian is really starting to focus a little bit more on automations. I wish they would fix their automation pricing though. Um, and Sadik says, "Can you explain the use of all work?" Yes. So let me tell you why all work is very important. So normally when you're in your backlog, you're going to see all the work that your team needs to complete. Okay, and I'm going to go to an old project that actually, well, let me go to a project that actually has things in it so you can see it better. Need to find a project that has work in it to show it to you. Okay, this one right here is going to have work. Okay, so your backlog shows you all of the work that you need to complete. All the work here is ideally 99% of the time not complete, not resolved. Okay. So your backlog and your board are going to do a phenomenal job at showing you all unresolved work. Awesome. But what happens when you resolve? What happens when you close your sprint? What happens when your work gets completed? Well, normally when you either complete the sprint or when you release your board in Kanban, all of the work that has been resolved is flushed away. It's gone. You no longer see it in the backlog. You no longer see it in the Kanban board. And so the only way to see that work again is to go to the list or to go to the all work. And then the all work is the most ideal because here you can now search for all the work that is done. And in the list view, you don't get that feature, right? The list view is just a list. But here, you're going to be able to find the work that you finished before. And which is why that this it's important for these numbers to be accurate, which they're not in the new UI, right? Or in the new experience, in this part of both UIs, right? Because when I click on this, right, if I just want to see all my work, I literally want to see all my work. There's 94 items that are in this project. When I'm in this view over here, it's misleading. It's telling me there's only 22 items, but there's a lot of work in here because all I'm doing is toggling between these two views. I am not changing the query. I'm not changing the search results. I'm simply changing the view. And Atlassian should not be doing this where you have two different numbers based on which view you're in because the query, and I'll show it to you, right? If I can figure out how to change over to, how the heck do I change to? Oh, there it is. All right, new change. The basic and JQL toggle in the old UI used to be, we go to all work, the basic and JQL used to be over here on the right-hand side. In the new UI, it's now on the left-hand side. The other thing that's not immediately obvious, and that's probably because I'm on the free version, is that Atlassian Intelligence Search over here, you can see the AI searches right here, right, front and center. Again, I'm on the free version of Jira here, so I wouldn't expect this, but I'm expecting to see the AI somewhere. Okay. So, anyways, so that's the change, right? So as you can see, the filter itself does not change. So I'm expecting the same number of results. And the fact that these aren't the same is a problem. This number should be the same as this number. And the reason being, this did not change. So Atlassian, you got to fix that. Okay. I don't think that there's many other changes. We can hit the create button. This is all working the same. So that all looks good. I think that's going to be it. I think those are going to be the majority of the changes. This did change a little bit. This is now a little bit cleaner. It's got, again, the new UI. You now see Loom. You see more vertical integration across all the different tools from Atlassian. There's that home app I was talking about earlier. It looks like Atlassian again starting to make some changes here and there and everywhere, but still a little bit inconsistent because you don't get the best experience yet. This is mildly annoying. The expanding of this item over here for the sidebar has changed because over here, it's not there, right? Over here, the top left corner has been that menu that shows you everything. And if you want to collapse your sidebar, the button's over here. And so intuitively, I would click on this button to change from Jira to Confluence and whatnot. But over here, if I intuitively click on that same button, all I'm doing is hiding the sidebar. So that's a very, again, unwelcome, unintuitive change that is just going to take you time to grow that muscle memory. So again, it's mildly annoying that this button that used to be here is now where the old button, this button used to be at. And so muscle memory is going to take you here to change from applications. But now, right, because here I can change to the different applications. But now all you're going to do is collapse this a lot. You're going to get very, very mad at Jira. So anyways, I think this is a good stopping point. Um, the notifications look the same. The help looks the same. The gear, as you can see, again, more modern, but still very familiar. So I believe those are all the changes that I wanted to run you by. Atlassian, again, making major changes on this UI, and hopefully that covers everything. Oh, hold up, we got a question here. You have some time. Can you please show me how to use the timeline to showcase the tasks to the stakeholders? So you can and you can't. So the timeline, so they just for situational awareness, is very good if you follow the hierarchy. So if you have your epics and your tasks or your stories below that, it will work. But this assumes you work off of epics. If you are only working off of tasks, then this will not work, because if you don't associate a task to a parent, you're not going to see them on the timeline. You will never see a task or a story that is just an orphan. It always has to be tied to the epic, and then the epic will show you the dates. And so the other second thing you need to do is that for each of these items, whether it's a story or an epic or a task, this stuff is driven by your start and your due date. So you got to make sure you pull in your start date and your due date into your issue view or your work item view so you can see these pictures. And then the final thing you need to know is that these links are just the blocks and blocks by. So you just need to make sure that you're blocking block by in your relationships, which of course you can always just click on these buttons and like link this way as well. And so it's much more natural than doing the blocks and blocks by. But hopefully that helps answer that question. All right, folks, we're 51 minutes into this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, again, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're sharing these videos and check out all the other stuff that I got going on. I do a lot of ACE live learnings. So you go check out Atlassian. I'm going to drop some links here in the chat for you all. If you go here, you're going to be able to sign up for some of my other courses. So I have a couple of courses here. Definitely recommend you check them out. I got one. I thought it was tomorrow. Apparently not tomorrow. I got one in a week where we're going to be doing understanding fields and custom fields. So that's coming up tomorrow. I'm also doing a ACP 620. So if you are on YouTube, highly recommend. Let me get some stuff for you all folks here. Check out the Jira Life. We are doing the Jira Life. We are doing a live stream on the ACP 620. So if you're looking to get certified and get certified again for ACPs, we are going to be here. So make sure, I'm going to come over here just to bring in the Jira Life. So go subscribe to the Jira Life. Help us get to 2,000 subscribers. We're getting closer, but help subscribe to the Jira Life. Also, we had an opportunity, sit down with an hour and a half with the CEO of Atlassian, Mike Cannon Brooks. And if you want to hear that amazing conversation that I had with him, along with the rest of my team, go check out the Jira Life and subscribe to the Jira Life. And that's pretty much it, folks. I hope you enjoy your time here. And if you did, and if you have any questions, I do offer one-on-one help. And so I'm dropping my link tree here. But if you need any help, I do offer 15-minute increments, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever time you need. Whoops, that's my LinkedIn. Check out my link tree. So if you want a 15-minute question or an hour, everything that you need to know about me is on this particular page here. So at the very least, connect with me on LinkedIn. And that's it. We'll see you in the next one. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.